Frank's Red Hot is the perfect blend of flavor and heat, so you can use an entire bottle to make recipes like buffalo chicken dip or buffalo nachos, or even things that don't start with buffalo. Frank's Red Hot. I put that on everything.
Hey, Craig.
Hey, Jeff. All right. Once again, thank you to Randy England at Randy England Music on Instagram for that great intro song. And thank you, Jeff, for being all professional and like putting it in.
Takes a lot of effort, let me tell you.
Yeah. But yeah, welcome to Podcast versus Everyone episode. Jeff hasn't put it on the screen. I'm going to say 118. Is that right?
Oh, yeah, that's sure. Right. I forgot to look it up. Hold on. I can tell you. It's episode 119.
I'm always one off. Welcome to Podcast versus Everyone, episode 119. In case you were tuning in and thought you heard the same, you were listening to a repeat. No, this is 119. I'm Craig Powers. I'm not good at math. Well, I am actually.
Yes, you are.
And with me, yeah, I know I am.
See, I can get away with that one because I'm an English teacher. I suck at math, and people actually believe it. And that no, you are really good at math, and you're not going to get that one by me, there, Powers. Sorry.
But yeah, with me is the English teacher, Jeff Newser. Yeah.
I suck at math. Not really.
You're all right. You're all right. Yeah.
I'm all right.
Two decent mathematicians here, let me tell you.
Two above average gentlemen with numbers.
Yes.
That is my life story, is just trying to be above average at as many things as possible. Greatness has eluded me on virtually every front, so just trying to be pretty good. I think you can accomplish a lot in life just being pretty good. So that's what I'm going for.
Exactly. That's I've been pretty good so far, and like all mediocre white men, I just got a great new job opportunity just by being pretty good.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about that.
We love that. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Someday we'll get together and we'll actually, really celebrate it the way that, the way that we should. But you're, let's see, you're getting poked here pretty quick, and I got my second poke this weekend. So we're not that far away from getting together and enjoying each other's company again.
Cheers
face to face.
Cheers
with
to
no
COVID.
Masks.
Cheers to COVID weight gain. Making me eligible for things.
Is that how you pulled it off? You plugged in your numbers and they were like, you are obese.
Yeah, just right on the line, and got in.
You're like, thanks, COVID. It's the first good thing you've given me.
Yeah. But getting stuck, and and then I'm hoping I think I'd be willing to possibly go to Pullman on April 24th, because to tell you the truth, I've had a hotel booked for weeks just in case for April 23rd through 25th in Pullman. Just in case we're doing that social distance. The crowd at spring games are generally social distanced, just naturally.
Yeah, there's not a lot of density there anyway.
Maybe they won't sell as many tickets to the upstairs, but if they do it, which was the most fun part, was getting to be in the club and drink beer during the spring game.
Yeah.
We got the spring schedule, man, and it is very different from what we're used to.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we're used to spring ball taking like 6 weeks, right? Like they practice 2 to 3 times a week, and they're allowed 15 total practices, including the game. The game itself counts as a quote-unquote practice, right? So they would do, 15 practices, spread them out over about 6 weeks, lots of, film study time in between, lots of time to break stuff down, install new plays, et cetera, et cetera. This one, man, it is a sprint to the finish. It's about 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks, right?
Yeah. Well,
total?
Yeah, I think it's 4 weeks exactly.
Okay, so 4 weeks exactly.
Thursday. Yeah, because they do 2 practices after the spring game. But yeah.
Okay. But they're basically like every other day.
Yeah.
Right?
It usually starts mid-March. That's why I was wondering if they were actually going to do the spring game on the same weekend that they always do it. Because we hadn't heard so long, but apparently they are, and they're just gonna jam it in. I mean, I see why they're doing it, because you have finals week right after that. Like, if you pushed it back, you didn't want to have them practicing during finals week and all that. So
no, and they can't go past that.
Yeah.
So, my only thing is, like, what took them so long to start? But I think
very weird.
We can probably guess what took them so long to start. So I think we can probably assume what happened and why why they didn't start 2 or 3 weeks ago. So
I'm sure WSU would really like to have people at the spring game. They've done COVID donations for the club seats and stuff before, or COVID calf donations for the seats and stuff, and get a few maybe a few dollars into some local businesses, whatever. But so yeah, I'm sure they'd like to have it. I'm sure they're working on it. I don't know if like a spring game would fall under the guidelines that allow the Sounders and the Mariners to have people at their games, but I'm sure that, like, I've seen with Tacoma Defiance and stuff, like the minor league teams and the Rainiers, they're working with state officials to see if they can make it work, and now they have 3 weeks to do it, and we'll see if they can. But otherwise, go ahead.
We're not. How many people show up max? A few thousand max.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
In a 30,000 seat stadium. So I can't. I just like. I can't imagine there's even a whole lot of working with state officials as far as like how many people they can allow in, because I just
if they can do it in general.
Yeah, I think probably if anything, it's just like procedures, right? So how you get people safely in, safely out, traffic flow, that kind of stuff. But still, it's like, there's so few people. If you told them, hey, you can sit with your family group and you must have, 3 seats in any direction between you and the next group,
which is what the Mariners and Sounders are doing. Yeah,
right.
The Mariners, so for the Mariners at least.
Yeah, so that wouldn't be. That's not going to be terribly difficult, and and people will just sit with who they want to sit with anyway, and you and I will sit together because we will both be vaccinated. We could do that. So, and then other people will just do it anyway, no matter what, and whatever. I guess I don't know. At this point, I know people are sort of desperate to do something live. I don't know. Do you think more people will show up just because of that?
No,
I tend to think not.
I think less people will show up.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
I don't think people are, because it's still a practice football game, and that's never.
It is.
Outside of when it's been in Spokane, you haven't seen that. Like, Spokane drew some decent crowds. But there was
Mike
kind of
Leach's
like
first year was a pretty big crowd. That was the big one.
Yeah, and then they had the beer garden, and it was such a different thing, And then the first year back in Pullman, which was the only time they've had it so far in 2019, was, I think it was decently attended, but seriously, like, it didn't feel like a Cougar football weekend in any way.
No.
And there wasn't many people in the stands outside of the people that paid to be able to be in the club area.
Yeah.
So
it's tough to tell though, because like obviously it's such a in a big stadium, right? Like, I would guess there was probably 3,000 people there, don't you think?
Yeah.
With everybody all together?
Yeah.
Which is probably about what we're getting in Spokane anyway.
Yeah, I think some of the years I think they got like 5. I think they got like 10 one of the Mike Leach's first year, but I think the numbers dwindled, like much like when they had the Seattle football game, and,
right?
Big huge numbers when they played Nevada, and then they didn't have it as many people when they played Stanford versus when they played Nevada. So
right.
So yeah, definitely the interest faded there. That's why they started doing Pac-12 games there, because they were hoping they could do some more interest, and thank God that thing is dead.
Dead as a doornail. I do think that the plan to have the spring game in Pullman, it's one of the reasons why I really like it, is because it has the potential to grow, whereas these other things always felt kind of gimmicky, right? I mean, Moose had his infatuation with trying to cater to Spokane, thinking that, Spokane was some, vast untapped resource, which we have learned is not really the case. Or at the very least was not the case under Moose. I think there's a lot of thinking that maybe Moose wasn't working quite as hard at that as he wanted everybody to think he was, which was sort of his MO in a lot of ways with a lot of things, it seemed like. But at any rate, it never felt like something that was probably ever going to grow. It felt like a thing like, hey, let's do it here to try and generate some interest. And it did, for a short time. And, but having it in Pullman feels like a thing that could actually grow. Like I didn't anticipate it was going to be a huge crowd that first year, and it wasn't, but I feel like, year over year, maybe you can add some things and make it a springtime pilgrimage for a lot of people who otherwise wouldn't. I mean, we had a tremendous time at that.
Oh
game.
yeah.
Like
so
like
much
we
fun.
had, it's like all the good stuff about a Cougar football weekend without any of the stress.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like you get there, you tailgate. It's not super crowded. You can actually tailgate in a reasonable location, right? You're not like banished to the outer corners of the campus if you're not rich. And then you just sort of, waltz on over to the game. And I know for you and I, like, this is the thing other people don't worry about, but like, I didn't have to write a game story, about the game. I could just,
you didn't have to be mad about anything.
Yeah, I didn't have to be mad.
Stressed about anything.
Yeah. Have fun and, have some beer and just, and then afterward we did a podcast with,
maybe if we tried that this time, you could bring the switchboard.
Yes, maybe, and that'll work better. So yeah, I mean, it's it felt like something that had potential. As you add elements to it, it really could become, I think, like a pilgrimage festival type atmosphere. But that's obviously not going to be the case this year. So
yeah, like my I have a couple of friends who love to just they're both went to WSU and they love to just go back. Like they just love going back. They try to go to at least one football game, and they go to basketball. They always plan for a basketball weekend, and then now they've added the spring game is like, she's been asking me every week, like, have they announced the spring game yet? Are they going to do the spring game? Because she's so excited about it. I think there's more people because it's just such a more accessible weekend. I don't think you're never going to have like 15, 20,000 people there, but there could be a time when you get 10,000 and the hotels around could definitely handle that. Like there's no problem. And, I booked at the Residence Inn. Like you can never book a Residence Inn on a football weekend. I mean, they're pretty much already booked out in advance to certain people. So, but it's just kind of fun because you get to kind of do some things in Pullman. Obviously, this year is different, but in a normal year, you can kind of do some things in Pullman a little easier than on a real football weekend. You can go to the Coug, and it's not overwhelmingly packed. You can go to Valhalla. You can do all your same stuff without this kind of overwhelming crowd everywhere you go, and you still get to hang out in Martin Stadium. You still can do the tailgate thing, but maybe you can take more time to like go to a restaurant, or you can take, whatever. So obviously we're all talking about normal years and stuff, but still I'm excited they're having it this year, at least going to have a spring game. Hopefully they'll be able to have some people in the stands and they're smart about it and everything. But given the rising numbers in Whitman County, that kind of makes you think that's probably why they didn't just right out say that people could go. So they probably want to see where that goes in the coming weeks, to see if maybe some of the spread, especially once
they can't wait that long though, right?
Yeah, that's true.
They're going to have to sell tickets.
I mean, they don't have to sell tickets.
You don't think so?
They could have just be I guess, yeah, you're right. If they're limiting capacity, then they do have to sell tickets. You're right.
I mean, it feels like they're going to have to it almost feels like they're going to have to actually assign seats. Because I don't think.
Yes.
I don't know.
Or you have to have a ton of staff just telling people where to go. Or
right.
Or they could X out rows, just put tape over rows and stuff.
Yep. They could do that. I don't know. I'm sure they're working through all that. I'm sure they'd love to have people come, trying to figure out how to make it all work. And I'm sure they're dealing with the reality of what we were just talking about, which is, people tailgating, right?
Yes,
that's a potential super spreader type situation, right? Because not very many people are going to be vaccinated, and, there will be some people who, don't think COVID is real or whatever, who are just going to, would get together. I mean, heck, when we tailgated, right next to us was basically a Sigma Nu party.
Yeah.
And it was, full of alumni and students, and, just kind of fraternities do. And, so
we had
100 people, right?
We had our own, pretty big crowd of just friends and
especially
friends and their friends and we had a pretty big crowd. So that's definitely something that would be different, and, maybe not.
And nobody's masking up because everybody's having beer. So
yeah.
It's that's I don't know. At least it'll be outside, and we know that
definitely
outside
helps.
is much less of a risk than indoors. But still,
especially if you're.
I don't know. I'm sure this is all stuff the school is weighing, trying to figure out.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do it and ban tailgating.
Thing is, if you're inviting people to campus, they'll find a way.
Yeah, but they could probably.
They could say no RVs. That's about as much as they could probably get away with.
But that'd be hard because you got all those people that's sleeping in their RV for a football weekend,
right?
So you're telling them they have to get a hotel or whatever. But which I mean, honestly, that'd be good for Pullman businesses if they just were you have to go stay in a hotel or whatever. But
yeah, because let's say they did ban RVs, right? So we would probably have friends who would have an RV, right? And they would say no RV. Okay, so what would we probably do? Well, we'd probably get a backpack full of beer and find a place to
sit somewhere,
post up, right? I don't know, I'd probably, if I was driving, I don't know, probably bring a table and a tent. I've got those things, that these are all things that are pretty easy to transport and set up. So I don't know, man, unless they're going to police, no tailgating, and then I guess we go to, Valhalla or the Cougar or whatever, but I don't know. I don't know, man.
Capacity. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
We just need a place to plug that soundboard in, and then we can,
that's it. That's all we really
so
need.
We can do our live podcast. That's all we want to do in life.
We just need a little power.
Drink beers, it's 3 feet apart, I guess now. 3 feet apart, which is very easy to do.
Yeah, that's pretty much as close as we can stand to each other.
I am a chronic kind of spitter when I talk, so I'm pretty sure that I project more than 3 feet.
My students would tell you that I am as well. As I end up apologizing periodically throughout the year to the kids that sit in the front row, I can see it flying out of my mouth and landing on the table, and I'm
I just have this tendency of to kind of wipe my mouth, but it's more to cover my mouth when I talk to people, because it's just I'm conscious of spitting them. So if I'm saying an S or a P or something, I'm just
yeah.
Hand over mouth.
I have the curse that everybody who ever had braces has. Because if you had braces, it gets all messed up, and that's when you really start spitting, man. So it's because the inside of your lips get all there's calluses and stuff from having braces, and so thing just doesn't work like it's supposed to after that. So anyway, maybe we should talk about actual football.
Yeah. This is not COVID cast, although it has been at times.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, the condensed schedule. Probably the biggest news is that Jaden Delora is still suspended.
Not a shock.
Yeah.
Not a shock.
But it seemed, one thing that is also important to know is that it doesn't seem like he's going to leave the team or anything, because that's what I think you kind of worried about at the start, that he would just, because there was a few guys that bailed right after that, and you're like, okay, maybe this is going to be a thing. But it seems that, Rolovich had positive things to say about how Delora has handled the situation, which of course a DUI situation. So, if he's able to handle it, but one thing that's big impacts, they brought in a transfer quarterback from Tennessee, and Guarantano, and so it already seemed like there was going to be a QB battle to begin with, just because they did that,
Yep.
Because truly,
and we were in agreement. We were in agreement that Kama Cooper was no slouch, right, and was going to have a legit shot.
Exactly. So, so you have three guys that have a shot, of course, and now if Delora doesn't practice, that's obviously going to impact his ability to start out. If he doesn't practice at all, Rolovich hasn't said whether or not he's going to practice. He says he has it in his mind, but my guess is, it's practice ends in a month, so. If he's not good to go now, I don't know if he'll have a chance. Who knows? We'll see. But still, he's the one thing he would have had the advantage of over any of the guys is game time reps and reps in this offense. But now Guarantano's going to be able to catch up a little bit in that regard, and Cammon's probably going to get more first team reps than he would have gotten. So that kind of sets Delora back, who we saw, had a bit of an up and down 4 games, and had some very high highs and showed his potential, and then also, struggled at times. So, it seemed like by any means did he, guarantee the job for himself for 4 years. And another interesting thing to note, they listed him as a sophomore. They listed all the freshmen as sophomores, even though technically by eligibility, they're still freshmen. That was an interesting decision that they went with. So he's technically a sophomore now.
I'm curious what the reasoning is behind that. Like, I guess, I don't know. Like, did that strike you as super weird? Because it struck me as weird.
Yeah, and I've been thinking about it a lot with the basketball too. Like, if they're going to do
like basketball, I see that one because little bit because they played a full season, more or less. Yeah,
Yeah,
football played 4 damn games.
4 games, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe if we just call them a sophomore, and then when they're a senior, they'll get off the book sooner. I mean, I don't know. Seriously,
I don't know about you, but sometimes I forget that they played at all, and then I'll be reminded of it, and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, we had football games this year, like in the last few months. Like, that was crazy." And then of course there was the other teams that played almost full seasons or whatever, but. Yeah, they played 4 games, but obviously still by eligibility, they're all freshmen technically. And they can still take redshirt years and, all that, and still, so everyone basically redshirted, because obviously we have Jahad Woods is back, and he'll be a super senior, and there's a lot of other guys like that, Renard Bell and other guys. So, so we had a few guys that didn't show up on the roster. Hank Pladson, Lucas Bacon, who played quite a bit last year, but
started all 4 games.
Yeah,
so weird. Still,
I know he started every game and then would play.
But he started all 4 games, caught 5 passes for 47 yards. That's not particularly for an offense that does not rotate receivers.
Yeah.
He was basically playing the whole game.
Yeah.
So, not, good for him. My guess on that one is he was a walk-on.
Yeah.
My guess is he was not scholarshiped. And so it was like, moving on.
Yeah, go see if he can find a scholarship somewhere else to play.
Yeah, and, more power to him. Frankly, at the risk of sounding overly harsh, I don't think Lucas Bacon was in line to start any more games this year. I guess I'll just put it that way. So.
Yeah. And then Pat Nunn, who sat out for COVID reasons already. And
such a bummer on that one.
Yeah. So
unless he's just still opted out for COVID.
Yeah, I mean,
just possible, I guess.
If you thought it was dangerous then, I don't see why you wouldn't just suddenly think,
right,
I don't want to test it now. So,
right.
And then Jimmy Price, who was a transfer, a JC transfer who redshirted Leach's last season, but didn't see any playing time in 4 games. So maybe that was something where it's like, hey, you're not in our plans, so maybe go try to find someplace else to play.
Yeah. Entirely possible. And, with that extra year of eligibility, basically lots of guys coming back anyway. So yeah, and that's a guy who, was a JUCO guy. So, I mean, he went up the hard way, right, to get to Wazoo. And, I think that a lot of people just underestimate the commitment that it takes. And if you haven't ever really spent a lot of time around college football players in particular, and it's not to say that other sports are, easier or anything like that, but football takes a unique toll on people's bodies and brains. And, at some point, it's one of the reasons why it's pretty rare to see walk-ons that are like 4th or 5th year guys.
Yeah.
Cause it's so much, and you take so much physical abuse and you're expected to be like everybody else, but without any of the real benefits, right? You never play in a game. You're not on scholarship. It's really, really, really tough. And so that's why sometimes you see these, sometimes these guys who are seniors, just sort of like kind of drop off. Cause it's like, man, if I'm not going to play, what's the upside here?
Yeah.
Getting my brain beat in, however many times a week, to show up on Saturday. And look, when you're a freshman or a sophomore and you've still got dreams of big time college football, like there's definitely a novelty aspect to that. And guys will put up with that for a couple of years, but man, it's pretty rare that someone will put up with that for 3 or 4 years. And there may also be injury situations here too. You never really know. Sometimes when guys get to that point, maybe they've got a nagging injury. They're a guy who doesn't play and very much. And so you sort of quietly move them onto the medical list, and they're still on scholarship, but they're not on the roster anymore because they're not on the team anymore. So anyway, we never really know with these things for sure.
Yeah. And obviously, with Pladson, we were talking before, I'm not sure if he was on scholarship, so that could have been a thing where he didn't get a scholarship, and so he bailed. And Julian Ripley's an interesting one. He was a freshman offensive lineman, big dude, majoring in mechanical engineering. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So
don't see too many of those.
Must be a smart dude as well, who's good at math, better at math than us. So interesting there. I don't know what happened there. He's from that Rancho Cucamonga area, so that's a popular place for the Cougs. So those are the guys that are on the roster. Some explainable things, and then Julian Ripley's probably the only one that I'm more curious about. But football wise, I don't look at any of the guys that are on the roster and be like, we're fucked. Like, this is not like, we've already had some players. I I guess we got to talk about, the elephant in the room there is that Aiden Hector has entered the transfer portal. It's possible that was a nudge to the portal.
I mean, we knew he was suspended.
Yeah. So just maybe trying to find, another place that will maybe they weren't going to put him on scholarship either. They said maybe they felt like he had not done what he needed to do or something.
Well, given the backstory there, it's not hard to imagine a situation where, Rolovich said, we feel comfortable doing this, but if you want to stick with us, you better be doing, X, Y, Z. And given that he was suspended, I think it's entirely possible that he did not do X, Y, Z. And he was either A, not put on scholarship and he decided to go of his own volition, or B, it was you're no longer welcome here because you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, which, is a super bummer for a talented kid. But, and we don't know the full story, so I don't want to besmirch the good name of the young man, but, obviously something didn't work out the way that everybody hoped it would. And it's a real bummer because, man, he is talented. When you see, I think we've talked about this before. I mean, when you see a 4-star kid, like a legit 4-star kid join WSU and you just see the difference, it's a bummer. It's a bummer to lose that kind of talent for sure.
Yeah. But also if there is good reason, I have no problem with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited for the team to have a spring practices again. That really sucked. They didn't get to do that last year because they had late spring. We always have one of the latest spring balls because of the weather in Pullman, obviously.
Yep.
I'm excited that they get to do that. That was a real bummer that, you had a first-year coach coming in, they get to do it. So I think that'll be huge for the program to be able to get these practices in. Again, everyone, you don't know if it's good offense or bad defense. Like, you just don't know. So don't freak out. I would say if the offense is struggling, that's more bad news than good news. Like, it's not, the defense hasn't suddenly, went from being one of the worst in the conference and country to being good. That's not going to happen. I would hope they're better, just because the defensive coordinator Dickert has a track record of that. But yeah, I would still think that it should be a dominant offensive. Whenever they're scrimmaging, right?
You would hope.
Yeah,
you would hope. But one of these days, I'm gonna have to go. I used to have a bookmark, man, but EDSBS used to have its annual, its spring practice guide. It was just like, how should you react to, the moments of panic induced by maybe my offense sucks, maybe my defense is great, maybe my defense is actually terrible, like all of that good stuff. So. Yeah.
Basically, don't react. Just exactly. Have fun reading about individual players and all that stuff. But also be careful with that, Andre Lintz.
Oh yeah. Every year there's a spring practice darling, right?
Yeah.
Who are some of the others? There's been others, man. Cassidy Woods was the one a couple of years ago.
It's always
he was kind of being used as a tight end.
Yeah, it's often that tight end with Leach. It was the tight end hybrid thing. Yeah, it's like, oh my god, they're gonna have a tight end. Like, no, they're not.
Leach always liked to just kind of toy around with it.
He's never gonna change that offense. Like he's like that's just not gonna happen. But yeah, so I don't know what else to say. Like, we'll obviously. We'll have more to talk about every week now because we can talk about practice reports, which Jeff and I just love. We love talking about spring practice reports. It's our favorite thing. We'll break those down. One thing I want to note is that all the practices are open to the media and everything. So
which is cool.
Which is different than the last coach. So.
Well, actually, Leach made spring practices open.
Oh,
those
okay.
were definitely open, but yeah, it'll just be nice to have open practices again. Something, to be able to report on that. I mean, look, that should be as good of a clue, by the way, as any as to how sort of significant these practices are. So
yeah,
if you're a fan who's hanging on every report from spring practice, I implore you to not do that. I assure you that the coaches are not doing that. It's a time for them to get out, do some stuff, fiddle around, experiment. And, I can probably tell this story now because it's, 2 years later. But, I got to go to a spring practice and I got to sit in on a QB meeting with Leach and all of his quarterbacks. And it was super cool and just like one of the neatest things. My only regret about it, by the way, is I never actually wrote a story from it because it just kind of like I put it off and then things happened and then all of a sudden Leach was gone and then it was just like, oh crap, But, at that meeting, one of the things they were doing is they were putting in, a couple new plays, and one of them was a quarterback power run, which I think we can agree we never, ever, ever, ever saw under Mike Leach, right?
No.
But they were installing a power run. Well, why? Because Gage Gabrud was in that room. And Gage Gabrud happened to be, 6'3" or whatever and 230 pounds.
And they were also recruiting Jaden DeLora, so
yeah, and he's built like a running back.
Yeah.
So
Gabrud, absolutely,
it made sense to have that in your playbook, in case he wins the job, right? So it turns out Anthony Gordon wins the job.
Anthony Gordon ain't
is
running.
Never, ever, ever, ever going to run quarterback power.
No.
And that's it. So it really is a time for experimentation, for refining, for setting expectations, for teaching fundamentals. When the practice I went to, there was a lot of Leach was super involved with working on fundamentals with receivers in terms of releases and things like that. Like that's really where the emphasis is. If there was any sort of competitive disadvantage to have or competitive advantage to keeping it secret, they obviously keep it secret like they do everything else. But it's just not. So take it for what it is. It might be cool to learn about some guys and see how some guys are fitting in and don't read too much into anything, because every year there's, like we said, there are storylines that you're like, oh wow, this might happen, and then I swear to God, Leach used to do it just to like mess with people. Like, I might use a tight end this year. Everybody else better prepare for that. And of course,
one thing that'll be interesting to watch in the spring game is they kind of ran like not a full run and shoot last year. I think partially because they had to throw it together, and so they just took the most athletic kid and like let him kind of run this more of almost a pistol. Zone read offense, and obviously they put that into their offense in Hawaii, but it seemed like it was way more of that than it maybe his ideal would be. So we might see at the spring game things look a little bit different. Guarantano is not as mobile as Jaden DeLora. He's not like immobile, but he's not, the runner that DeLora is, and obviously Cooper is not either. He's a guy that could move outside the pocket, but he's not a guy that's going to be, picking up chunks in the ground. But so it'll be interesting to see, that and spring ball. I'm just excited because I was getting kind of worried about content for our podcast, Jeff. But now we have spring ball. And
there's always something, man.
Yeah. And
we learned that the first year we did this. There's always something.
And we basically stretched talking about a spring football schedule and like 3 roster things into 40 minutes. So
yes, we did.
That's pretty good. Let's I don't know. We still got to talk about, we'll talk about some of the other sports. Mixed bag on the weekend. Some good, most bad. One very good, I should say, and then one Not so good. I do want to actually queue up my music here. Just give me a second. But yeah, we'll be right back after this message as soon as I get it up. There we go. All right. We're back, Jeff.
I don't know, dude. I kind of liked it when you went.
Well, we got both now. I
loved that.
You like my just totally delaying because I was trying to find it on my phone again, just because I'm never prepared apparently. Just a total wreck over here.
That's all right.
And someone else hired me again.
We got to be on brand.
I
mean, as we slowly inch toward professionalism, there are just we have to stay true to our roots at times.
Yes,
and, that's one, like something has to remain crap, and that's as good a thing as any. So.
Oh, and speaking of being slightly more professional, I guess I meant to say this at the top, but hey, we want to make some shirts, and we'd love if anyone had any design ideas, and we can talk about sharing the stuff there. But we want to make some shirts. One in particular we want to make is a GFC shirt. We love GFC, which of course means Go Fucking Cougs. If you follow any of us on Twitter during any sporting event of Cougs, if the Cougs win, it's GFC everywhere and anywhere. We encourage everyone to tweet GFC. But we'd love if a nice simple GFC design, if anyone could put that together, maybe with the podcast name on the back or something. I don't know, Jeff, maybe Cougs Center on there or just the pod. I don't know. Maybe just the pod.
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
We kind of have more rights to the name of the pod than the name of the website at this point. But
yeah,
so maybe just the name of the pod. But any other ideas, if there's any things like we don't care or stuff like that, if you got any design ideas, hit us up and we'll talk about it. But yeah,
I mean, it worked out pretty well with the music.
Yes,
so
yeah, it worked out really well.
Go back to that one.
Yeah, and so I'll mention this again at the top of a podcast next week. So, but I just kind of forgot about it this week. I was just so excited to talk about spring ball. But yeah, Jeff, I mean, what shirt are you wearing, or what are you drinking? I don't know. One of the two.
Well, okay, so I went to go get a beer for tonight. And then I remembered that my primary refrigerator had gone out. And so after spending a ridiculous amount of money on a new refrigerator, well, all of our stuff. So basically what we had to do is we have like a lot of people, we got two refrigerators, one refrigerator for beverages and sort of overflow food. Well, the old refrigerator for beverages and overflow food suddenly became the primary refrigerator, which meant that the drinks had to go. So they are all sitting on a counter. And I forgot to put one back in the fridge so that I could have something to drink. So I'm actually having a coffee because I'm going to be up however late, like mixing the podcast and stuff. So I figured, well, might as well roll with a small one, like 10-ounce coffee. But so that is what I am drinking. I wish I was drinking beer, but alas, stupid refrigerator.
Lame.
Super lame.
Things break. Adulthood is great. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
I love sealing my foundation.
I know. I was like, the other day, I was like, stupid refrigerator. I'm so tired of paying to replace things in this stupid house. And then I was like, actually, Craig just got done sealing his foundation. Probably doesn't want to hear about my refrigerator. So,
yeah, got to direct that water.
Refrigerator was probably less money.
It's fine. I mean, all my beer's down in the basement. I had to keep the water from getting into it, I don't want it to ruin the labels. That would be awful.
I know. It was a big deal. So what are you drinking, dude?
Well, it's already gone at this point, but I started with a craft casual.
Yes.
From it's fast fashion and Stoop. It was brewed at Stoop. It is also a collaboration with the Nos Adietes, however you say it. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Podcast. It says "You'll never yacht alone," which is their motto. It's a play on the "You'll never walk alone." From what is that? Liverpool fans, right? Yeah.
Liverpool.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's a play on that, and it's part of their. They just had their like big yearly event, Yacht Con, which is a pretty cool. I mean,
super cool.
I would be just over the moon if we ever got to the levels of this podcast of having a yearly event and then having a damn beer collab, which the label is great. Craft casual, just a pair of boat shoes. I love a pair of boat shoes in the summer. I can wear those all the time. I dig it.
Yep.
I know I look basic as fuck wearing them boat shoes, but I don't care. I like them. They're comfy. Wear them in the water. Wear them wherever. Doesn't matter. So yeah, craft casual, pretty nice, solid little hazy pale ale. Very good. Interesting. Like Stoop wouldn't make hazies for a long time, but they've done a few now, and they're good. They brew good beers. And then I followed it up with a Three Fates, which is just one of my favorite beers from Holy Mountain, a Czech Pils. Very good stuff.
Yeah.
So that's the beer. Go Nos Adietes, Aaron and Jeremiah and the guys. Good folk.
If you're a Sounders fan. I know we have Timbers
fans.
fans.
Yeah, it's a Sounders podcast, so...
But
yeah, you'd love it if you're a Timbers fan.
Your team sucks, so
yeah, sorry.
You just have to get over it.
Sorry, sorry guys. But yeah, one of their hosts is moving to Tacoma, and not that far from me, and I'm pretty excited. We're gonna drink some beers. It's gonna be great.
Maybe I'll move to Tacoma someday.
Yeah, you should. It's
Maybe
the cool place. It's going to be, if you wait another year, it's going to be way too fucking expensive.
I know. Although my house, like out here in, BFE Graham, like apparently is appreciating at a ridiculous rate.
Oh yeah.
So whatever.
That's like when your house starts when you're into like a hot market and your house starts appreciating like crazy, it's like, this doesn't matter. Because if we sold the house...
No, because you're just going straight across.
Yeah, like if we sold the house, we wouldn't be able to afford the next house.
It's like, this house is worth this many hundreds of thousands of dollars?
Like,
oh, wow, that means I can go afford this other house that's worth it. I could take all the equity that I just cashed out and put it towards this other house
and
still
no
have the
equity.
Same size mortgage.
Yeah.
Have the same size mortgage.
Yeah.
Great. I don't know.
So I love you, house.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's why you pay so much money to fix the goddamn foundation so the water doesn't come in, because you're stuck here. You're stuck. And then you convince yourself it's fine because there's so much equity in the house. So whatever,
whatever. You just look at it and go, this is my net worth right now.
Yeah, exactly.
With all the imaginary money that's sitting there in your house.
Which will never go away, ever. It's never...
Go down to your basement, count your imaginary money.
Mm-hmm. Hey, that's... A lot of the rich people, it's all imaginary money, So now I'm just joining that class of, like, the imaginary money folk. We get to, like...
like a true mediocre white man.
Yes, I am just living that life, buddy. Living that life. Love my privilege. Just privileging all over.
Yeah. Woo.
So Cougar Baseball had just transition. Had a less than mediocre weekend, we'll say. Got absolutely destroyed by Arizona State. Kyle Manzardo didn't really play. He had a pinch hit once or twice, I think. A pinch hit and luckily got a walk to keep his
drew a walk
to get his on base streak to a record level. So he's now set the WSU record for on base. Consecutive games reaching base, so that's pretty cool. But otherwise, they didn't score many runs. They gave up quite a few runs. It was kind of a slap in the face, and hopefully just a bad weekend and not indicative of the rest of the Pac-12 schedule. Because they've
now lost 6 out of 7.
Yeah, against two of the better teams in the league.
Yeah.
Two of the better programs, recently in the league, and so it's definitely was a tough start to do both of those on the road. But hopefully they can, right the ship. Hopefully Manzardo can play, and you kind of forget when they have that early success that they're still rebuilding that program.
Yep.
But there's definitely better players in the program than there were. But
particularly offensively, particularly hitters.
Yeah. And so, still maybe the pitching's not there, but I mean, I still think Brian Green is looking good, and especially what he did at his last stop. And so it's
absolutely,
I have confidence that, he's good to go, and he's got the BTO project all done, and can recruit to that and all that stuff. And so, you still see them pull in like good recruits and stuff too. So maybe they're not at Oregon State and Arizona State's level yet, but you don't have to be at that level to compete for, pro season. So, definitely the Donnie Marbut teams that made the tournaments got their butts whooped by some of the top teams of the conference too, and still were able to get enough to go to tournaments. So none of that's out of the question. They definitely just had real tough series to start, and they did get one win out of it. So that's not the end of the world. It wasn't totally swept. They got one win out of Oregon State, and almost got a second. That was a real bummer. They really should have had that one, but that makes it even tougher when you then go and get swept by Arizona State. But we'll keep
back home this weekend.
Back home
this weekend.
Yeah.
So yeah, they do play. So if you listening to this podcast, probably the soonest you are listening to it is Thursday morning. The series against Stanford starts Thursday night. So and it's on Pac-12 Networks at 4:00. It says Pac-12 Networks, but I don't know if it's actually the national network or Washington. So I'm not sure. You'll if you're going to watch, you'll want to check that, but or just watch it on your laptop like I do. So
yeah.
But all three games this weekend are on Pac-12 Networks. So that's pretty cool. So 4:00 Thursday, 5:00 Friday, noon on Saturday is your 3-game series. Sure would be nice to get back on the right track. Stanford's top 25 also, but hopefully maybe being at home makes a little bit of a difference there.
Yeah, and then volleyball had a bit of a rough weekend too. They were coming off a COVID break, and then also missing two of their best players, probably their two best players, and they fought hard in the second set against Utah. Utah's a very good team, but they got swept by Utah. They were playing players that had barely played the entire year up until like in the first 12 games. They had maybe played like in one set, and then they were playing. You had a freshman who had barely played, and she led them in kills, and their hit percentage was awful, and like it really and like they weren't playing the defenses normally play, and it just wasn't ideal. Like that Pia Timmer was out. She's just she's all over the place. Like she, talk about their offense, hitting percentage. You take her out and you see the drop, and even she's a person that sets, a person that does everything. So that sucked because it kind of dealt like a devastating blow to their chances at the Pac-12 championship.
And they're down to their last 2 games.
Yeah, and so they would basically need Oregon.
They would need to sweep. Oregon and Washington would each need to lose.
I think both games, actually, maybe. It just depends on percentages.
I'm looking at it right now. They're 15. It's 15-3 is Washington. 13-3 is Oregon, then 10-3 is us.
So
it would only take one loss.
Well, if we end up 12-3 and Washington is 16-4, that would be a tie. That would both be 750.
That's true.
Oregon,
you're right.
If they lose one, then yeah. If we're 12-3 and they're 14-4, then 12-3 wins.
Yep.
I think UW to tie them, we would need to beat Arizona twice, and then UW would need to win one, lose one. Cal is bad, so
yep. Extremely bad.
Yeah, they did beat Stanford this year. But
Stanford's also extremely bad.
Yeah, but I think that's one of their only
Which is
wins.
a weird thing to say.
Yeah, that is their only win. That's their only win is Stanford. So I wouldn't expect... it's kind of a bummer that WC didn't get to play Stanford. I think they would have gotten 2 wins there. They were definitely humming at that time. So, but now, they need Cal to pull a miracle to tie to get one of those games, one of those matches this weekend, and then WC needs to take care of business. But still, I think take care of business, and you're in line for postseason and everything. So, that'll be good. But yeah, it definitely needs some help, a lot of help. From an unlikely source to still come out there with at least like a share of the title, which I don't know if percentage wise if they would just because UW played more games if they would say it's a share or they would just give it to them. I don't know how that works, but
what I do know is what they're shooting for is a shot at the bubble experience in Omaha.
Woo!
For their tournament.
I mean, if you're going to be in a bubble,
Omaha, Nebraska.
If you're going to be in a bubble, it doesn't really matter the city, right? Like it doesn't. I mean, you could be in a bubble
in theory, yeah,
because you can't go anywhere anyway. You're like all the players can do is go. Like in Indianapolis right now, the players can only go from the hotel to the stadium. Which, by the way, is not
except
true.
Gonzaga went to the zoo somehow. I don't know how that
Yeah,
happened.
they must have outings that they're allowed to do, I guess. I don't know.
They
did go to the zoo. I've asked a couple folks, obviously our friend Alyssa Charleston, and asked Brenna Green, who's there. They're both covering the Zags. But I mean, I don't know why Alyssa wants to do her job. Like, that's lame.
I know.
But they both told me that they can pretty much do whatever they want. Like, it's only the media aren't in any sort of bubble. I was curious because like Charles Barkley had said something on TBS, because I think they're going on site for the Final Four. And he said something like, "Oh, we can only go from the hotel to the stadium." I don't know. Maybe for them they'll be closer and they have more restrictions. I don't know, but So,
or it's entirely possible that Charles Barkley has no idea what he's talking about.
No.
Yeah, I might suggest that he does not know.
Covering the NCAA tournament when you're in like the Elite Eight and he doesn't even know who the best players on the team are like half the time.
It's so bad. For a long time, it was so like, oh, look at Charles. It's so cute. He doesn't know who the players are. And then at some point, you're just like, dude, how can you not know who the fucking players are?
Especially when you're deep in the tourney.
Man.
Like, you've seen 3 games from these guys. Like,
exactly. I mean, I get it if you're like, you don't know who, the best player from Oral Roberts is, even though, he's the leading scorer in the country or whatever. That
guy, Asmus is amazing, by the way. Oh, my God.
Yeah. I mean, but we're 2 weeks into this thing now. Like, maybe you've been watching the games. Like, it shouldn't be that tough. But whatever. I know it's partially a shtick. It's annoying. Shaq does the same thing. And it's like, come on, man. At least pretend like you're trying.
Okay, I do want to talk about the tournament, but before...
Yeah.
We have to talk about our one good news from the weekend.
Yes.
And that was...
Yes, let's do that first.
That was, because tennis got crushed, too, I think by Stanford. Like, so they got obliterated. But soccer went on the road to Boulder, to Colorado, and our like, savior, Macamé Gamera Stevens... came through with another just ridiculous run through the defense in overtime to get the game-winning goal. Just absolutely, I don't know if you saw the replay of it, but just...
I did not.
She just ran, like, it was FIFA style, where you're like, I'm just going to try to run through the defense. They're probably going to steal it, and then suddenly your guy kind of pops out with the ball. Like, you kind of pop past the defender, and the ball, you're like, oh shit, and she did that twice. And then she just buried it past the keeper. Really impressive run. She's similar to the impressive run she had to score a goal against UW, but even more impressive, I'd say.
Yep.
She's a stud, a star. And that's a big win. Get a big road win. They're still going to be fighting for another postseason too. So everything matters.
Yep.
That was technically the first Pac-12 game. So the games against Utah, the game against UW, those weren't Pac-12 games.
One of the games was the first Utah game was.
Oh, okay.
That was a Pac-12 game.
Because I saw something that said it was the Pac-12 opener was going to Boulder. I guess I'm wrong.
I don't know.
Maybe someone was mistaken.
I know that.
I guess.
Yeah, maybe. The first game against Utah, the tie, that one counted.
Oh, that sucks.
The win 2 days later did not count. And then of course the loss to Washington didn't count. Which I guess is great. After that,
if they're trying to make a postseason, all of them matter equally. Honestly,
correct.
Yeah,
correct.
And that's really this program isn't. I mean, obviously we want to win the conference title, and that's going to be a goal from now to eternity for WSU soccer.
Yep.
But I mean, the baseline now is go to the postseason, and
there's only 5 games left.
Yep. So
we only got 5 left.
Getting that Colorado one was massive. Because they're kind of a middle of the road team. They're not a great team. You don't want to lose to them. So they have a tough one this weekend.
Very tough
on Friday.
Big game.
Pac-12 Washington going at UCLA, where they've won before recently.
Yep.
And UCLA lost their last game.
Scared.
So. UCLA lost to Arizona State their last game, so they're not unbeatable, but they are 5-1 in conference. They've already played 6 conference games, while WSU has played 2, but UCLA has played 6, and they've won 5 of them, no ties, and so that'll be a big one. That'll definitely be probably their biggest test this season so far.
Yep.
So it should be fun.
It also appears, by the way, that they are doing standings on points per game.
Yeah.
And not overall points. So we are currently in 4th place.
Yeah. 2.0.
With our 1-0-1 record.
Yeah. So take that, UW.
We're actually ahead of UW.
Yeah, because there's 3-1-2.
They're only at 1.8 points per game.
So yeah, this is obviously a byproduct of WSU having a COVID break, and but hey,
major COVID break. They had 4 games canceled.
Yeah, 4 games.
Pretty bad.
So the world is in front of them because they are just sitting at 2 points per game, and the leader's at 2.5, and they're playing the leader this weekend. So
you figure, I mean, look, we're all sort of talking out of our asses with going to tournaments and things like that, but. It's like you look at those 5 games and you figure, all right, well, what do they need to do to sort of be in the, be where they want to be, and you start thinking, if you post a losing record in those 5 games, maybe things don't look so great. So, you want to get out of there. Not a lot of ties because of the way they do overtime, right?
Yeah.
So you don't get a ton of ties. So you're figuring, okay, 4 games, you'd like to, I think, at least win 3 of them.
Overtime's a golden goal, sudden victory, all that stuff. In case you aren't aware,
which is how they beat Colorado.
Yep.
So, but yeah, it's and then you got you finish your last 3 games at home: Oregon State, Washington. Those are all Oregon State, very winnable. Washington's a good team, but certainly beatable.
I mean, they were right there. At UW. So soccer has at UCLA, at USC this weekend. USC is, definitely a winnable game for sure. So we'll see. We'll see. I think, man, if they could somehow get 4 points out of the weekend, that'd be great. Obviously on the road, you're always hoping for 1, but like at USC, to get a win at USC would be huge, and somehow steal a point from UCLA. Who's ranked number 5 currently would be great as well.
Yeah, if you get 4 points out of the weekend, I think you're feeling fantastic.
Yeah. If you get 2 points out of the weekend, it's not the end of the world, too.
No. Yep.
Yeah, so soccer.
Soccer talk.
Yeah, I love talking about soccer standings in particular. It's like I love the point system. It's like just weird as
thrilling.
Hell. Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. If only we had if there was like a women's college soccer Champions League or something. We're like, we got to finish in the top 4. We got to. Yeah, but so yeah, soccer. But yeah, I don't know. We can't like leave without talking about the tourney. We love the tourney. That's all. That's all I've been doing in my life for the past few days. Just watching. Today just felt empty.
Been great.
Empty. So I will say,
it did.
This is probably, it's got to be the first season ever that both the WSU men and WSU women beat a Final Four team in the regular season. It has to be.
Has to be.
So the women beat Arizona, who behind Ari McDonald went to the Final Four this weekend, and then a couple of days ago, and then obviously UCLA from the first four to the Final Four, as they like to say.
Second team to do that.
Upset Michigan. That was a wild game. Kind of stunning that Michigan didn't grab that game at the end. like they had every opportunity and didn't somehow. I don't know.
Yeah.
You got a 38%
with our
3-point shooter that airballs a wide open 3-pointer to win. It's nuts.
Yeah, I was talking with our basketball coach this morning, and he didn't get to watch the game. He had other coaching duties that he was dealing with, but he was real high on UCLA, and he was like, I knew they were going to do. I knew they were going to be tough, and I'm like, well, yes, but like Michigan, not that Michigan blew it, because I won't go that far, but I will say that Michigan had a number of good opportunities to win that game and did not cash in on any of them. And sometimes that's, how it goes. And, UCLA was the beneficiary of both, some excellent game planning and some super tough play, and also some good fortune. They were, this close to losing to Michigan State and never making it into the actual tournament. And then, they were a couple of wide open 3-pointers away from losing to Michigan too. So, that's how the tournament goes, man.
Yeah. Go Johnny Juzang. Just absolutely went nuts. I think he scored over half their points and made a lot of tough shots, because Michigan was making that they had to make a lot of tough shots to do it. They are going to have to make a lot more if they have any chance against Gonzaga.
Oh my God! We're in agreement. They don't really have a chance against Gonzaga, right?
No, I mean, you were like, okay, USC with their interior and all that, and still it just didn't matter.
Well, I mean, who could have possibly guessed that the key to USC's interior defense is making sure that you could actually set up in the half court?
Yeah.
Which they could not do because they kept turning the ball over.
And they couldn't make
live
shots.
As we know, live ball turnovers are death. And they're even extra super special death against a team like Gonzaga, which is, makes their living on fast break layups. Yeah. Because they're so good at it.
USC played solid defense, good defense in the second half. But
they got as close as 16?
Yeah, they just the damage was already done in the first half. It was over. Yeah. And then Gonzaga has an insane number of scorers that will punish any mistake, and I don't see UCLA having. I mean, unless they shoot like they did against WSU and Poly. That's the type of shooting they need to do to have a shot.
Unlikely against Gonzaga's defense. That was honestly lest this turn into a Gonzaga appreciation podcast, because God knows I do not want to do that. But that was the part that so much was made of Gonzaga's offense against USC's defense, which, I mean, rightfully so, right? Because, points are sexy and, whatever, right? People want to know, can anybody stop their offense? But way more impressive to me was that second half, when USC's defense got much better. And there was one stretch where Gonzaga went 3 or 4 minutes without scoring, and USC was able to close the gap from 21 to 15 or 16. And that was it.
Yeah.
Gonzaga's defense was so good, and, they had such a good game plan for blitzing USC's ball handlers. Whoever did the advanced scout on that game did just a bang up job, because they saw something in the way that USC handled the ball that that caused them to believe they could just sell out for every single deflection and whatever strip opportunity.
Yep.
And it worked, and it totally worked. And USC, I mean, they were down by 15 points before they even knew what hit them. I mean, Enfield called a timeout at 7-2 because he was like, "Yo, or 7-0."
Yeah.
He was like, "Yo, we gotta, whoa, we gotta calm this down." And then they really didn't change anything. I think he must have just said in the huddle, "Hey, calm down, guys," and it didn't work.
Well, because they legit like
layups and layups and layups.
USC just looked terrified. They made a lot of they were playing too fast. Like
way too fast, way too
a lot of guys trying to make plays that didn't need to be trying to make plays. Yeah, it was they just looked that they were not up to that task, and Gonzaga was
such a bummer.
Yeah. I again, not I will say, just as appreciator of coaches doing the right things, I like the things that Mark Few has been saying, like we're just going to celebrate every week, because if you're a team like that, you're just going to be so stressed about your goal is the championship, which you kind of you look back at the Adam Morrison team, it seemed like that was their goal, and they were just extremely stressed, and we saw them completely melt down. And, but yeah, just, I obviously it's really frustrating that Few has learned a few things, through all this time, and he's pretty much approaching this perfectly. And my birthday is on Monday, and that is the date for the national championship, and I am not looking forward to watching that game. It's off, it falls on my birthday every 6 years or so, and it's usually fun. I get to one of my favorite events of the year is a college basketball national championship game, and I don't know about it this year. But on the other side of the bracket, obviously we have Houston and Baylor. Houston, I just love their style, man. It's just, it's not pretty, but I just love how they're just they value the ball. They value having the ball. They value getting shots up, shot volume, baby. I was inspired by them as they were, they got out to a big lead on the Beavs, which, all credit to Oregon State, came back and tied that game in the second half. That was crazy. That was nuts.
Who would have thought? Okay, I mean, remember how Craig Robinson used to run that crappy 1-3-1?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And Oregon State, I swear, Wayne Tinkle come out. They come out man to man, and they're just getting destroyed on the glass, right? So then they go to their 2-3 zone, which would seem to be counterintuitive. Mm-hmm. Okay, you're getting killed on the glass. Go to the 2-3 zone, and they ended up giving up a lot of good shots, but did a little better on the glass out of that, which was weird. And then, they come out early in the second half, 2-3 zone, still getting shredded, switch to that 1-3-1, and all of a sudden, Houston had no idea what to do with that thing. I think the biggest thing was that Houston doesn't really have a point guard.
Yeah.
And so, against a 1-3-1, it's extremely useful to have a point guard who can, dribble into gaps and kick. I mean, I remember against those Craig Robinson teams, like Reggie Moore used to annihilate that thing with just a little dribble drive right into a seam, basically causing 4 guys to run at you, or 3 guys at least to run at you, and all of a sudden it just unlocks pass, open shot. Houston had no clue. Baylor's not going to do that, so maybe Houston doesn't have to worry about that in the next round. But yeah, it was wild. I thought that game was over. And then to watch Oregon State come all the way back was actually pretty cool. It was obviously a little bit of a bummer that they lost.
I think it was
not sad that they lost to Houston, because Kelvin Sampson's great.
Yeah.
So.
I think it was 55-55 with less than 3 minutes left. It was nuts. I'm like, oh my god, this is a close game. Like what? So yeah, what a run for the Beavs. Absolutely insane. We
should do that.
Yeah, can we do that? Please. That looks like
I want to have that kind of.
That
fun.
looks like a blast. Although I can imagine the devastation of being that close to the Final Four. And even though you weren't supposed to be there, but then less than 3 minutes left, tie game, you're right there. That's probably some big devastation. That's probably going to take a while to get over before they can truly appreciate the insane run that they went on to win, 6 games in a row to get to that point.
Right.
6 games against good teams. Like, it was nothing but good teams that they beat. I mean, they dismantled a Loyola Chicago team that had just dismantled Illinois. Like,
yes,
it was nuts.
It was utterly bizarre.
That Illinois game was, I mean, the Loyola Chicago game was, I did not see that. I was like, okay, you guys, you did it. You got to the Sweet 16. Good job. And then they're doing it again. And then they came back against Houston. Like, oh man. Now I'm like, I hope Ethan Thompson doesn't come back. I don't want to face that team now with all that swagger they got, like, oh man. All credit to Wayne Tinkle and just those players, man.
He did a great job deploying the guys that he had into situations where they could be successful. So it was sort of like, the game against Houston, it just took him a little bit of time to find the right combination of players, to do a thing. But once he kind of figured it out, then all of a sudden, again, they go on this run, right? And, I think it was a 17-3 run that finally erased the gap altogether. The biggest thing was Houston kept turning the ball over. It's number one rule, man. If you got a big lead, just at least don't turn it over.
Exactly.
At least make sure that you get shots up. So I don't know, man. Elatishe, that's a guy who kind of freaks me out for next year with them. Kalu's a really nice, steady player, floor spacer kind of guy. Definitely, I don't know. Hopefully Ethan Thompson decides he's ready to go be a professional somewhere. So
yeah,
that'd be good. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
I'd be totally okay with that.
Yeah.
Jared Lucas, real good player too.
Man.
They got some nice players, and Andela, same deal. Like they got some dudes. They got some dudes who can play. I don't know if they'll be better next year in terms of I don't think anybody expects another Elite 8 run out of them, but they will certainly be a top half of the conference pick when the preseason poll comes out. So
yeah, absolutely. And they should be.
They deserve it.
Yeah. What a nuts run. I can't believe it. I haven't actually got to watch Baylor that much this year, even in the tournament. I haven't watched them. I've watched them, I've watched a lot of the games, but it's been like bits and pieces. Yeah. But that's obviously, that's the one game everyone wants to see is Baylor Gonzaga. And I think it's probably going to happen, but I could see Houston.
And that'll be an absolute track meet. Dude.
Yeah.
Like if Baylor can get back, I don't think Houston can beat Gonzaga. I just don't think Houston's got enough offense to do it. Yeah. And I know that they're adjusted off. They're a top 10 offense technically. But just watching them, the way that they generate offense, I don't see them being able to generate that kind of offense against Gonzaga.
Yeah.
Not against Gonzaga's defense. And then Baylor, Baylor is sort of known for its defense to some degree, but actually by the metrics isn't that great. So they'll be able to score with, it's kind of the flip. They'll be able to score with Gonzaga, may not be able to hold them down at all, but I don't know. We'll see. It'll definitely be interesting. I wish that Kelvin Sampson was coaching with Baylor's personnel. I guess the way I would put it. I would love to see Kelvin Sampson go up against Mark Few in that championship game, and the way that they would coach against each other. And it's why I think the Gonzaga UCLA game might be interesting for a little while, given how hard UCLA plays, and Mick Cronin, I think we have established now he's a pretty damn good coach.
Yeah.
And I know we probably made fun of UCLA when he was hired. I'm pretty sure we did.
Yeah.
Just because it was like, really, that's the best you can do.
Yeah, right.
And he obviously wasn't their first choice either. So let's also not pretend that somehow, Dan Guerrero knew more than we did about it. But at the same time, it's a guy who was just, really just every year just very good at Cincinnati. And, now, you look at him at UCLA and, he's doing the same kind of thing, except now he's got he's got a line on better talent, not necessarily on this team, but in the future, he's going to start pulling in, some of those guys that, that UCLA used to get, and they're going to fit in with a very tough-minded program and tough-minded coach. And, it's, it sucks because UCLA is probably going to be good again, and then we got to deal with that. But, it is fun to watch right now. And we are just rolling in money. We're like Scrooge McDuck diving into his his coin in his basement. I mean,
wow. Yeah. Like, so apparently there's no more money that can be extracted from this. Like, but, this is I guess the most money, but like not the most units, but the most money because the units are worth more now. That Pac-12 has ever gathered from a tournament, and just, yep. I mean, so you got 2 from Colorado, you got 3 from USC, 2 from Oregon, 3 from Oregon, 4 from USC. I'm sorry. You got 4 from Oregon State, 6 from UCLA. So that added up to 19? And so 19 units, quite a run. And I think it's over $500,000 a year that WSU will get over the next 6 years because of that. Obviously, there's like a baseline amount that you're expecting. You're expecting at least like probably, I'm sure there's a number that, the athletic department has in mind that the conference is going to get just based on, having like 4 or 5 teams and maybe a few of them winning. So maybe you're looking at more like, you're expecting like 7 to 10. But to get like double that, is a big deal. In a time when WSU and all of the athletic departments need the money. So, and WSU,
it's got to be at least double what they were anticipating.
Yeah, I would think so.
It's got to be at least double.
So an extra 250, 300 grand. Yeah, WSU will take that. Absolutely. That's,
you think about what that, that's couch money to some schools, but for us, it's, you think about the people who've been laid off, right? Like, that's, that's a couple of people's jobs. Like, it's, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. So it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Thanks, UCLA.
Thanks, UCLA. Thanks Oregon.
USC.
Thanks, Oregon State. Thanks USC.
Oregon.
Thanks, VCU.
No thanks to you, Colorado.
Yeah, Colorado. You thought you
only contributed 1.
No, 2 because they got
Losers.
there. They got 2.
Oh, right.
Because they got there.
So 2. Okay, fine. Yes, 2.
At least no one only got the 1 token one. Everyone at least grabbed a win.
That is true.
12-3 overall, the Pac-12 in the tournament. Who knew?
It's incredible, man.
On KenPom, obviously, WSU now up to number 78.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about this.
Okay, we got to talk about this. So I think we'll kind of wrap it up after this weekend, so we know where the final numbers are. But right now, I just love where this has gone, because in Dick Bennett's second season, WSU finished number 79 in the KenPom rankings. WSU is currently number 78. It's
having moved up 30 spots.
Yeah,
30 spots.
29 spots
since the end of the season. 29 spots since the end of the season.
Doing nothing. Sitting on their keisters. Moving up 29 spots. They're pretty solidly ahead of Northwestern at this point. It would take like UCLA getting absolutely blistered. I don't think they could even. It'd be hard for them. Like UCLA would have to like beat Gonzaga for them to move up past Buffalo. There's a pretty wide gap there. But still,
even if UCLA gets ripped,
they're not going to fall because they're supposed to get ripped.
Looked, but I imagine it's the prediction's got to be a double-digit prediction.
Yeah, it's 12, 83-71. So it's pretty big.
So,
and unless
they lose by 30 or something.
And Ken Pom will cap the margin around 16. It just depends. It's average, but it's based on trends. But he says it's usually around 16. So yeah, they're probably not going to drop really at all. So they're probably going to finish around 78, which is pretty cool. Got top 25 defense, number 23 now. That's moved up 12 spots.
That's crazy.
The offense has moved up like 30 spots. It's like 40 spots.
To go from like 284 2 years ago to 23.
Oh, in defense.
Is like, I mean, you know, what Dick Bennett did maybe is a little more impressive.
He had number
just
one.
Because he went all the way to number one so we went from 233 to 1, which is, you know, especially because when you start getting at those tails, right? Like it's harder to go from, you know, like 10 to 1 than it is to go from 20 to 10.
Yeah.
Right. So like you get on those tails. And so maybe going 233 to 1 is a little bit more impressive, but I don't know, man, going from 284 to 23 is, I mean, that's amazing. That is truly to jump 250 spots. You think about what to go from one of the, you know, like basically 50 worst defenses in the country to one of the 23 best. I don't know, man. It's just, it's remarkable. It truly is. Like, it kind of blows my mind. So it's very cool. And it's fun seeing the rest of the country look at the Pac-12 and go, hey, maybe they don't suck. You know, it's funny, right? I mean, you get into the conference and everybody's just playing each other. You know, I mean, I think I said this to you while I was watching Oregon and USC. I was like, this game looks like any other, just like any old Pac-12
they're
game,
not
except
playing
everybody
at a higher level. Yeah.
No, like everybody just decided that they don't suck anymore.
Yeah.
Like everybody just decided all of a sudden these teams are good. And okay, so now, oh wow, look at what they're doing. It's like that's what they always do. Like I don't know what to tell you. Like this is not some sort of like, it's not like they've jumped up to some crazy new level. Like they just, you know, it's just now, you know, without really any benefit of a non-conference schedule. That was the big thing, right? Like there were just a couple of non-conference games, and of course narratives get set, which is the stupidest thing, you know, on earth. And then, you know, then the teams just go beat the crap out of each other for 2.5 months. And, you know, it's, you know, became really obvious. The Pac-12 was a lot better than people realized, which is why, you know, the Ken Pom rankings have shifted so much, because now you finally get these crossovers, right? And so you add a whole nother sort of extended data set, right? Like, so you get like this ripple effect of, well, they played them and that team played that team and that team played that team, sort of introduced into the data. And, you know, all of a sudden, you know, the Pac-12 ends up, you know, looking a million times better. I mean, I don't know. You've been looking at this. What's the Pac-12 up to now as a conference in Ken Pom?
They're second. Second in what this is adjusted efficiency margin. So
for the whole conference.
Well, so it's basically, it kind of is an average. So it's ranks. It's what you would need to expect to go 500 in conference play. So
right.
So that's a team that is plus 16-12. So about what Oregon State is right now would be like an average team. And they're 43rd in Ken Pom, so that's a nice average team to have, like, as a 43rd in Ken Pom.
Yep.
So they started 6th. They were below the ACC, SEC, Big 12, Big 10. I think at one point during the season they were actually below the Big East at one point. But they've moved all the way up to 12th. They could drop to 3rd based on what UCLA does against Gonzaga, what Baylor does against Houston. And what Baylor might do against Gonzaga, of course.
But they're going to be second or third.
They're going to be second or third.
One way or
and they're going to be basically even with the Big 12, which is seen as a very good basketball conference. And so this is going to have this is going to be big for next year. Like,
it's going to be huge for next year.
Like, we're just, you get to the point where, you know, to get an at-large bid in the conference, Arizona might have gotten one at 11-9. I don't know. UCLA barely got in at 13-6, so probably not. UCLA had to go 13-6 to get one of the last spots. They were on the last 4 in. You're looking at maybe a team could go 11-9, 10 to get into the conference, because it's the narrative is set, and everyone's going to start out better in KenPom's prediction next year, and that kind of KenPom is so I think it's very influential now. I sorry to call you out, Ricky, but you didn't. Ricky O'Donnell, but you didn't. I like you, dude. Like, you're good, and you're not listening to this, so it doesn't matter. But so he wrote an article. He wrote an article today ranking the last 4 teams in the Final Four, and what he said is that, like you said about Houston, he said they have the 7th best offense and the 8th best defense, and I'm like, dude, you got that from KenPom. Just say you got it from KenPom. Like,
yes.
They don't have the 7th best offense and the 8th best defense. They have the 7th best adjusted efficiency based on KenPom's numbers, and the 8th best adjusted defensive efficiency based on KenPom's numbers. Now, if you love KenPom so much and you take those as gospel, and like they're the 7th best offense, 8th best defense, and that's fine with me. But at the same time, dude, give him a shout out. Come on, like. Same with and I, obviously Ken himself complained about this, but like CBS, TBS, they kept talking about one of the best 2-point defenses of a historic 2-point defense versus a historic 2-point offense. It's like the only reason you knew this for Gonzaga and USC is because Ken Pomeroy tweeted that like 2 days ago. 2 days before the game, he said, "Oh, this is the best 2-point defense in the history of my numbers versus the best 2-point offense in the history of my numbers." And CBS and TBS, whatever, is hyping this up, but you know where they got it from. They got it from KenPom. Just say that's where you got it from. How hard is that? Like, come on. Like, it drives me nuts. It drives me nuts.
It's not hard at all. And it's stupid. Because it's proprietary, man. Like it's not. These are not just. So if you want to say,
this is Ken's livelihood. It literally is. Like, he quit being a meteorologist, man. This is how he makes money.
Right.
I mean, there's other ways to make money.
Yeah.
But
and so, like, if you say, if you say that a team is 25th in defensive rebounding percentage, like, okay, that you could find that in a lot of places. Like because that's really just this plus this divided by that, and there you go. Like, anybody can figure that out. But like his adjusted efficiency margins, like that's some proprietary shit. Like, that's like he's got an algorithm and formulas, and it's secret sauce and all that stuff. Like that's his deal. And to not or when they talk about average possession length, that was another one that came up, and I'm like,
only he tracks
the only person who does that is Ken Pomeroy.
Or average height, right? Average height. He's the only one that
average height. Average, and again, average height is not just adding together heights and dividing by the number of players. He's weighting it by minutes, and so a team's effective height is influenced by who's actually playing, and that's a proprietary thing. Like, it's just super annoying. And as a journalist, you should always cite your sources. An English teacher, I'm always telling my kids, like, tell me where your stuff came from, and so it's to have ostensibly professional people not doing that is sort of like obnoxious. And I feel bad for Ken when I see that stuff, because I'm just like, man, he works so hard to do a good job, and to not get the proper credit is, it's not the end of the world, but I mean, come on, it's a pretty easy courtesy. It doesn't take long. It just, according to KenPom.com, this is the second tallest team in the country is not a tough thing. I do think some of it, to be honest, is because they actually don't understand the stat that they're citing, they then don't understand that it is actually a proprietary thing. Like, they are used to counting stats that you can find anywhere, right? And so when somebody tells them, well, this, and by the way, I'm sure the announcers are just regurgitating stuff that's fed to them by people who do this research for them.
Yeah.
Oh, second tallest team in the country. Oh, this is the second tallest team in the country. Like, they don't understand effective height, and they don't understand adjusted efficiency margin. Now, should they? They should. It's not hard to understand. These are not, these are not, engineering concepts. These are pretty easy to understand math concepts, even if you don't understand how you adjust something. It's like, I don't understand how the adjustment happens, but I know that it's adjusted for opponent quality. That's not tough to figure out, and that's not a hard thing. So I don't know. I do think some of it is they just truly don't understand what they are spitting out. They're just saying a thing, and because they don't understand that, they don't realize that this is actually kind of a special thing. And so it really kind of requires credit, because it's not, it's not everywhere, but it's not really an excuse, but I do think that's probably why it happens.
Yes. And so that's our rant. Anyone who listens to us know we're big, we have been for, a long time, big fans of Ken's work. And, when he switched to the subscription model, it was the fastest $20 I could possibly hand out. Like, it's still a heck of a deal to be able to dig into these teams. Yep. And you get things like the height metrics, like, and that for USC, that truly told a story this year for them. Like, it was a huge deal. Their length was a huge deal, and a big reason why their defense was so good. And it was a huge deal for WSU, who actually ended up 9th in average height this year. After the previous season being, where were they at? They were 93rd. And so you look at, they were 93rd to 9th, and suddenly they go from being a awful 2-point defense to, close to a top 50 2-point defense, probably better than top 50 if you adjust for opponents. Height makes a big deal, and no one else tracks it like Ken does. And he also tracks 2 foul participation, which is a stat I love. It's a very fun thing. No one else tracks that. He tracks bench minutes, which not a lot of places do that. His experience one is really cool. He adjusts that for minutes and everything too. Which, you look at WSU, 326 in like legit experience, based on like, because what a lot of places will cite is just the average class of the players on the team. But Ken will adjust for, the minutes and everything. So that's WSU 326, and they finished 78th in the country. That's pretty good, in adjusted efficiency margin, based on Ken's numbers. Like, that's pretty good. And it's, they're around that, and other numbers, they're around that on Bart Torvik's site. And, so, I'm feeling pretty good about where they landed there. And, I think it can give you a lot of hope, because, people act like this is just like, it's not like, if it was like one Pac-12, if it was just UCLA that made a run and everyone else kind of did what you expected, that would have been one thing. But the fact that like so many Pac-12 teams played so well is like, maybe this conference was better than we thought. Like, it just seems like, it was. Like, and WSU, who actually, by the way, they're 73rd on Bart Torvik, who uses, he says his uses, his methods are similar to what Ken's used to be. It's the Pythagorean theorem. We've discussed that, whatever. But they're 73rd on that.
Yep.
And so, like, you're talking about a top 80 team with 326th by Ken's numbers experience. This is why we get excited about Kyle Smith and his team. And so, and now we're even more. We were excited when they were 107 with this roster, and now they're at 7. Yep. They're top 80. Now we kind of know that all these teams we played are a lot better than we thought they were. It's just that we were all playing each other.
Yep.
So everyone's like, how could USC lose to Oregon State or whatever? It's like, well, maybe because Oregon State was a lot better than you thought. And, maybe Utah was better than you thought. And maybe all these teams were just better than you thought. Even UW was better, like they've jumped a bunch of spots too. Cal, better than you thought, that's the thing. You watch like Cal, you're like, you see guys like, Bradley and Andre Kelly, and you're like, these are good players. Like, this team doesn't look that bad. Like, Mark Fox is a pretty good coach. Like, and now they're kind of, their numbers look more where they kind of felt when you watch them. WSU now kind of feels more like where they felt, like, because you're like, really, we're not that good, but now, I don't know, it feels better now. Like, and it's justified, and it's going to be great next year. We're going to start probably in like a top 70 area, top 80.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe losing Bonton will hurt us, but we're going to return so much. And it's going to be really fun to start from there and just see where they can go, potentially be a bubble, potentially get to the NCAA tournament. This is way more of a rant than I thought. But yeah, this is, I'm excited. Go Pac-12. Yeah. Thank you for making me feel better.
Yeah. We needed that. It's always good. Yeah. It's like we spent our time rooting for the team to keep moving up the rankings without playing. It was great. Yeah. So yeah, huge implications for next year because the perception of the conference is really everything. So unless they go out and, shit their pants, during non-conference, which is of course always possible. And I think that's sort of a whole nother, maybe we'll devote a podcast to that sometime, sort of tackling, college basketball's issues and maybe how to fix them. But one of the things that I absolutely despise is how so much weight is put on games that happen in November. And it's like they set the narrative, and then all of a sudden that's it. And I mean, we joked, like I said, not joked, but like I said that, the Pac-12's biggest problem this year is that they didn't have a 6,000-pound gorilla at the top. They didn't have a Gonzaga or a Baylor or, somebody, or a Houston, a Michigan, whatever, sitting at the top of the conference. And of course now we go, well, maybe they did because, USC obviously was really, really good. But the perception was not that they had a national title type contending team at the top. And without that, and that gets set early on, which again, I think is ridiculous. Like, you're going to judge teams based on what happens in their first month. Like, that seems like a really dumb way to kind of go about it. But with the way it's set up where, you have these crossover games, and then everything that happens the rest of the way is just everybody beating the crap out of each other. It's just kind of what you get. I've got some ideas for ways that they could try and change that, which would be great. But, nobody's ever going to listen to me, but we can float some ideas here when we're looking to fill some airtime, maybe in June or something.
In June. All right. Well, I think we're good now. I think we talked enough. I
think so.
Amanda's brother is staying with us. He just got a job in town, and he hasn't got an apartment yet. So he's just hanging out with us until he gets an apartment. So he probably wants to go to bed. So I gotta get out of his room. But yeah,
well, you should have said that we should have had Chris on the show, man.
I know. Yeah, we'll get him on. We'll get him on. We'll get him on to talk about
we got to do that.
Let's if you want to email us any questions, comments, or t-shirt ideas, podcastvseveryone@gmail.com. Jeff, or you can tweet him at us. My DMs are open. You can DM me stuff at the Craig Powers, and then Jeff is at Pod versus Everyone. Subscribe, please. Rate us 5 stars, please. Write a comment, please. Whatever, all that. And yeah, go Cougs, Jeff.
Jeff? Cougs, Craig. Black Lives Matter.
Oh, were you drinking some coffee? Black Lives Matter.
Yes. No.